WNBA, they're having troubles with tickets now.
I saw a tweet and it was like Indiana Fever tickets fall by 42%. It is a lot more than that.
The get-in price for Angel Reese's Chicago Sky versus Caitlin Clark's Indiana Fever game on June 7th was $86 just 48 hours ago. Now it's down to $25 after Caitlin Clark's injury announcement. It's the Caitlin Clark effect.
The WNBA is in full-blown panic mode. Caitlin Clark goes down with an injury, and within hours, ticket prices around the league go into freefall. Some dropped over 70%.
Wednesday's Fever game versus the Mystics at CFG Bank Arena in Baltimore has a get-in price of $22.
After her injury was announced, so check this out. The game on June 7th, the tickets were originally $86. Same seats, now $25. After her injury announcement.
The Connecticut Sun game is from $18. It's $16 at Cambridge is the get-in price for a game. $16.
Entire franchises that just moved games to NBA arenas expecting massive crowds are now staring at rows of empty seats. And this is all because one rookie might miss a couple of weeks.
To confirm exactly what we've been saying, that Caitlin Clark is driving this whole ship, this whole bus. She's driving it, everybody else get in the back.
But here's the part nobody wants to admit. This isn't just about ticket prices or one injured player. This exposed a harsh reality the league's been trying to ignore, and now they can't run from it. But what exactly happened that made the WNBA spiral this fast? Caitlin Clark had been the Iron Woman of basketball. From Iowa to Indiana, she built a reputation not just as a superstar, but as someone who always showed up. She never missed a college game. She hadn't sat out a single WNBA matchup, but that streak is over. When news broke that Clark suffered an injury and would be sidelined for at least 2 weeks, the reaction was immediate, and not just from Fever fans. The league went silent, because 2 weeks wasn't the whole story. The team said they'd reevaluate her condition after that time, a phrase that quietly signals uncertainty. It doesn't mean she's back in 14 days. It means they don't know yet, and that uncertainty is what's terrifying the WNBA right now. What made it worse was how fast things unraveled. 1 minute, Clark was the league's MVP favorite and the main draw for sold-out crowds. The next, she was off the court and off the schedule, and suddenly the entire ecosystem around her began to collapse. Franchises that had banked on her name were caught flat-footed. Reporters started speculating. Fans started panicking. And behind closed doors, you can bet executives were asking one question: how bad is this injury? Really? But the WNBA didn't have to wait long to feel the fallout, because the very next day, something even more shocking happened. The numbers were brutal. Just hours after Caitlin Clark's injury was announced, ticket prices across the league took a nosedive. The most dramatic collapse? The highly anticipated matchup between the Fever and the Chicago Sky, set to be played at the massive United Center. Before the injury, fans were paying as much as $86 just to get in. After the news broke, that same ticket dropped to $25. That's a 71% free fall, and it happened almost overnight. But it wasn't just one game. The Fever's clash with the Mystics, scheduled for CFG Bank Arena in Baltimore, saw its own steep drop. The get-in price sank from $41 to $22, nearly cut in half. And this game wasn't in a small venue. It was moved from the Mystics' regular 4,000-seat arena to a 14,000-seat NBA-style venue. Why? Because of Caitlin Clark. Without her, it turned into a financial nightmare. Even the Fever's home games weren't safe. On average, tickets that had been selling for around $130 before the injury plummeted to just $80. That's more than $50 wiped off the price. Gone, just like that. And these weren't nosebleed seats. These were the headline matchups the WNBA had promoted all season long. In a matter of hours, the hype machine came grinding to a halt. The league's hottest games suddenly looked like ghost towns in the making. Empty seats, slashed prices, panic behind the scenes. And the scary part? Caitlin Clark hadn't even missed a single game yet. But this mess exposed a deeper issue, because the league had just made a huge gamble, and now that decision was blowing up in real time. The WNBA thought it was making a power move. Teams began shifting their games to NBA-sized arenas, expecting massive crowds driven by one name, Caitlin Clark. It was supposed to be a win-win. Bigger venues, more fans, more revenue. But now, those same decisions are turning into a public disaster. Take the Chicago Sky, for example. They moved their game against the Fever to the United Center, home of the Bulls, which seats over 21,000 people. That's more than double the capacity of their regular arena, Wintrust, where they already struggled to consistently sell out. Without Clark, they're staring at thousands of empty chairs. The buzz is gone. The energy is gone. The spotlight's still on, but now it's highlighting a crisis. Same thing in Baltimore. The Mystics moved their showdown with Clark and the Fever to the CFG Bank Arena, quadrupling their normal seating. But with Clark sidelined, those extra 10,000 plus seats now feel like a giant mistake. Instead of showcasing a sold-out crowd on national TV, these games risk becoming a visual embarrassment. Half-filled arenas and quiet stands in what was supposed to be the league's breakout year. It's not just bad optics, it's a financial gut punch. These teams bet everything on Clark's presence. They marketed around her. They expanded around her. And with her off the court, there's no backup plan. But the problems didn't stop at the box office, because Clark's absence didn't just shake up ticket sales, it flipped the entire MVP race on its head. Before the injury, Caitlin Clark wasn't just the face of the WNBA, she was the odds-on favorite to win MVP. Sportsbooks had her locked in at 115, a clear frontrunner despite being a rookie. Her impact was undeniable. She was filling arenas, boosting ratings, and keeping the Fever competitive. But the second the injury news hit, the betting world flipped the script. Clark's MVP odds swung hard to plus 250, knocking her out of the top spot. In her place, Nafisa Collier, Minnesota's star forward, who jumped to 175 after leading the Lynx to a red-hot 4-0 start and averaging nearly 30 points per game. In a league with only 40 regular season games, even missing a few can kill a player's MVP chances. And Clark might miss more than that. And here's the brutal reality. Even if she returns in 2 weeks, the clock is working against her. She'll have to come back on an absolute tear, winning games, dominating opponents, and doing it all without missing a beat. One misstep, one losing streak, and the MVP race is over. But this is bigger than just awards. This sudden shift in odds is a warning sign. It proves how fragile the league's momentum really is. One injury, one absence, and the entire narrative changes. And behind the scenes, that shift is creating panic, because the league was already walking a financial tightrope, and this might be the thing that tips it over. The WNBA was already operating on thin ice. $40 million loss last season, and pressure mounting from NBA owners who've been quietly footing the bill for years. Caitlin Clark was supposed to be the turning point, the savior, the one who finally brought the league into the black. And for a while, it looked like that plan was working. Ratings were up, arenas were buzzing, and merchandise was flying off the shelves. But now, that entire strategy is hanging by a thread. With Clark sidelined, the WNBA is getting a crash course in what life looks like without her, and it's not pretty. Empty seats, plummeting ticket prices, crumbling MVP hype, and worst of all, media rights negotiations that could be in serious jeopardy. The league had been banking on a major new TV deal, using Clark's momentum as the driving force behind it. But networks don't hand out fat contracts for empty arenas and falling storylines. And let's be real, those NBA owners who've been patient for years, they're not going to keep bleeding money if the promise of profitability disappears. Some are already questioning the long-term plan. What's the point? That's the quote one exec reportedly dropped during a closed-door meeting earlier this year. Without Clark, that question gets louder and a lot harder to answer. And the situation gets even scarier when you realize Clark might not be stuck with the WNBA at all, because there are other leagues offering her way more, right now. Here's the part no one in the WNBA office wants to talk about. Caitlin Clark doesn't need this league. Overseas teams are already circling, and the offers being whispered behind the scenes? Insane. We're talking $10 to $20 million per year, and that's not an exaggeration. There are international clubs, especially in Europe and parts of Asia, willing to throw NBA-level money at Clark just to get her in their jersey. And why wouldn't they? She's a global brand, a walking sellout. She brings cameras, fans, sponsorships, and right now, she's underpaid in the WNBA by comparison. Clark is making a rookie salary of under $80,000. Throw in endorsement deals, and yes, she's making solid money overall, but the league itself isn't even close to matching her value. So what happens if this injury leads her to question the grind? What happens if she looks at the constant cheap shots, the lack of protection, and the pressure of carrying an entire league on her back, and says, "Why am I doing this?" All it would take is one decision, one contract overseas, and the NBA would go from struggling to survive with her to drowning without her. And that's when the league's worst nightmare becomes real, because without Caitlin Clark, What's left to hold it all together? For years, WNBA supporters pushed the message that the league was about collective greatness, that it wasn't built around just one star. But Caitlin Clark's injury just tore that narrative apart, because the moment she stepped off the court, everything changed. Ticket prices tanked, national interest dipped, entire games that were once headline matchups turned into background noise. And now, the league is being forced to face a brutal truth it's avoided for far too long. Right now, the WNBA is Caitlin Clark. Her impact isn't hype, it's hard data. She didn't just bring fans from Iowa, she brought millions of new eyes to the sport. Games featuring Clark are the only ones consistently selling out, driving up TV ratings, and trending online. She's not just a rookie, she's a revenue engine. And without her, that engine stalls almost instantly. Look around the league. Outside of Clark, how many other players are consistently packing arenas in opposing cities? How many games without her are cracking mainstream sports coverage? The uncomfortable truth is, very few. The WNBA has incredible talent, no doubt, but it doesn't have another Caitlin Clark. Not even close. And this isn't just about one season. This is about the league's foundation. What happens when your entire business model hinges on a single player? What happens when her injury, temporary or not, sends shockwaves through your ticket sales, TV negotiations, and future projections? That's not star power, that's structural fragility. The WNBA is at a crossroads. Either it figures out how to build something sustainable beyond Clark, or it risks losing everything the moment she decides she's had enough. Because if this injury is just a taste of what the league looks like without her, it's not a good sign. And while fans hope for a fast recovery, the league's decision-makers are quietly sweating over a much bigger question. What happens next? Caitlin Clark's injury didn't just sideline a player, it cracked the foundation of an entire league. The WNBA's rapid rise in ticket sales, viewership, and cultural relevance was tied directly to her name. The second she went down, the numbers collapsed. Teams that had just moved to NBA arenas to capitalize on the Clark effect were left scrambling. MVP odds flipped, TV executives went quiet, and fans for the first time started to wonder if the hype could hold without her. This moment exposed a deeper truth. The WNBA's current success isn't evenly built. It's balanced on one person's shoulders. And when that person isn't there, the whole system starts to shake. That's not a knock on the talent in the league. It's a warning about the business model. You can't grow a sustainable league if it falls apart every time one player misses a few games. But here's the scary part. This was just a temporary injury. What if the next one is worse? What if Clark decides to walk away from the league that's put her at the center of every headline, but hasn't protected her or paid her like it? Should? What if she leaves for a better offer overseas? The league is on the edge right now. One wrong move, one more injury, one more disappointment, and the momentum that took decades to build could vanish overnight. Caitlin Clark gave the WNBA a golden ticket. The question now is, will they cash in or waste it? Because if this was just a preview of life without her, the league might not survive the full show. If you think the WNBA can survive without Caitlin Clark, drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you think. Is the league in serious trouble, or can it bounce back? And if you found this breakdown eye-opening, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell because we've got more deep dives coming your way. This story's far from over, and you won't want to miss what's next.